Hey everybody, crafting author. Let's go to another reading. We are on reading number 9, and this is called Later That Evening. So we learned that Elijah is like gifted, like super smart. Now he's going to be going into the 5th grade. He's jumping ahead 2 grades and going into the 5th grade with Caleb, his brothers Caleb and David. They weren't too happy at first, but now they're on board because he's uber smart and helps them do their homework. Okay, so this is later that evening, episode 19. AJ strolled down with his saxophone. What are you doing, AJ? Stella asked. Going outside to practice. AJ had been in band all through middle school and was now going into the 9th grade. When he first started practicing, they could not stand it. They made him go outside to practice just to save their sanity. AJ was extremely good now. Stella loved hearing him play his saxophone. You don't have to go outside, AJ. You sound really good now, Stella smiled. AJ smirked. Thanks, Mom. I like sitting on the front porch. It's so peaceful. I guess I got used to it. AJ sidled past with a smile. Alden watched AJ walk out and shut the door. That kid is so good looking, and he plays an instrument. Pure genius. AJ is going to have the girls flocking to our front door, Alden murmured. Stella grimaced. Every day she prayed that her boys would stay on track, that they would get through school. I can hear your brain grumbling, darling, Alden drawled. Stella pushed him on the shoulder. You think you know me so well, don't you? Stella asked. Woman, I've known you since preschool. Trust me, I know you. I don't always understand you, but I know you. They smiled warmly at one another. Episode 20, Stretch Marks. Just before school was due to start, the family decided to get together for one last summer picnic. The whole family showed up, including the neighbor girls, Mary and Sarah. Mary and Sarah just loved the little ones. They took off with Henry, Maddie, and Franny to play in the sandbox. The guys all decided to play volleyball. Stella, Annie, and Nettie decided that they would mix up some punch with a special ingredient. The 3 ladies sat at the picnic table, sucking on their straws while chit chatting. Annie looked at Stella. You seem kind of grumpy for a lady that just had a wonderful anniversary. How did that go, by the way? Annie questioned. Stella smiled. It really was wonderful. It ended way too soon, Stella said sadly. How was Shay's place? I hear that place is amazing, Nettie exclaimed. Wonderful. We are planning on going back for our next anniversary as well, Stella informed them. That good, huh? Annie questioned. I should get Tom to make us a reservation. All I can say is that place is wonderful, and the hotel was too. All 3 ladies took another thoughtful swig on their straws. Annie glanced back at Stella. So why did you look so down in the dumps earlier? Annie asked. Stella frowned again. Well, why do men just get better looking with age? Us women, we just age, Stella said with some exasperation. Stella's eyes were fixated on the men playing volleyball, on Alden in particular. Annie glanced to where Stella's eyes had roamed. Annie saw Alden, Celie, Tom, and the 5 boys playing volleyball. Suddenly, Alden scored. He ripped off his t-shirt, whooping and hollering. He started posturing like a bodybuilder. Then his 4 oldest boys copied him. Soon all 4 shirts ended up ripped on the ground. They all jumped around, making all kinds of man grunts. Tom laughed while Celie crossed his arms, shaking his head in disgust. Elijah just smiled, shaking his head. He was sure he was adopted. Stella took a slug of her drink and grumbled under her breath. Annie thought she said something about stupid muscles. Nettie spoke up, her voice turned dramatic as she threw out her arms. Sweetie, what's up? Is it is it perhaps that special time of the month, that glorious week that assures you that you are a woman, that wonderful week that makes you smile because you are not pregnant? Nettie finished with a smile. She grabbed her drink and batted her eyelashes at Stella. Annie cracked up laughing at Nettie's description of their monthly curse. No, it is not my glorious week of womanhood, Stella growled. Stella looked sheepish. Well, give me a week. Perhaps I am in beast mode a bit, Stella admitted. Stella went on to say, as for pregnancy, I was never so happy as the day that Alden got that vasectomy, Stella retorted. Stella glanced down, then back up. Both women had their straws in their mouths, waiting for Stella to continue. It just makes me so mad. Look at them. Not a stretch mark in sight. I have had 6 kids. I must exercise and do 200 sit ups a day. I must watch calories while that man over there eats whatever he wants. Did you see all the food he consumed today? And he looks like that. Annie glanced at Alden. So? What if he is one fine hunk of man flesh? You are gorgeous, sister of mine, Annie exclaimed. Annie took a long pull on her drink and then she said, Stella, for a woman that has had 6 kids, you look absolutely amazing, Annie stated. Stella shook her head, disgust written all over her face. Oh, yeah? Well, you have not seen me naked. I will not even look at me naked. I change in the closet in the dark just so I will not scare myself. Nettie and Annie giggled. Nettie looked Stella up and down. Girl, I do not see what has your knickers in a twist. You are beautiful. Nettie eyed Stella up and down. Stella sighed. I do not mind my body most of the time, but my belly looks like a crazed highway gone wrong. Annie looked skeptical. What? We all have stretch marks. That is part of having babies. You are very tall and you look wonderful. How bad could it be? Annie asked. Stella glanced around furtively. She turned her back to the boys and slid her shorts down while lifting her shirt up to reveal her belly. Stella showed her stretch marks in the broad light of day with the blinding sun to reveal all, nothing to hide each and every line. Both women kept drinking from their straws with raised eyebrows. They studied Stella's belly, peering closely. They glanced at each other, then went back to peering at Stella's belly. Neither one of them said a word. The longer they remained quiet, the more stressed Stella got. Stella yanked up her shorts and plopped back down. Your never ending silence says so much, Stella said sarcastically. Nettie looked disgusted. My stretch marks are a lot worse than yours are, and I only had him. Nettie glared in Alden's direction. Nettie lowered her voice in disgust. Alden weighed over 12, almost 12 pounds, and he was 23 inches long. I dilated straight to 8 so the doc would not give me drugs. Then the kid stalled in there like he was going to kick back and stay put. Then I had to push him out all natural. Nettie was really worked up by now. Do you know that pushing out a baby of that size, I broke every blood vessel in my eyes. I looked like a zombie. All his newborn photos, I looked like a freak. Nettie looked like her blood vessels in her eyes were about to blow again. Annie chimed in too. I have only had 2 babies, and I for sure have you beat. I have stretch marks on my butt, Annie said with a grin like she won a blue ribbon. Nettie chimed back in. After dealing with the birth of Alden, I decided right then that I was done. Yes, I wanted a girl, but not going to happen. All I can say is thank goodness I have you 2 girls. Nettie's face turned mean. I grabbed that doctor by the front of his shirt. I pulled him in real close. I told him that he better get my tubes out. I told him he better cut 'em, burn 'em. I better not have a one single piece of a fallopian tube left at all. Now all 3 women were glaring and grumbling. Their eyes returned to their men, resentment visible on all their faces. The guys, feeling their stares, hesitated. They made the mistake of looking towards their women. They all did a quick double take. They all 3 looked a bit alarmed, then confused. They looked at each other, shrugging. They quickly turned away to continue their game. The women turned back to their happy juice. Annie had her head tilted in thought. She slid her eyes to her sister and spoke. You know, Stella, your stretch marks remind me of something. Stella looked alarmed. She slammed her drink down a bit forcefully. What? What do they remind you of? Stella huffed. Promise you won't get mad? Annie asked. Stella glared at her sister. Just tell me, Stella demanded. Annie said in a sing song voice, like it was the most beautiful thing in the world. With your belly button in the middle, it looks like a colorful 4th of July fireworks that is exploding in the sky. As she spoke, her hands went above her head, then her hands arced outward and down. Stella's jaw dropped. Annie looked a bit sheepish. Nettie spoke up. You know what? Annie is right. It does look exactly like that, Nettie agreed. Stella dropped her head to the picnic table and thumped it on the wood a couple of times. Nettie went on to say, I saw this article with photographs the other day. It was about how women turn their scars and stretch marks into amazing tattoos. I am sure I saw this image of what we are talking about. Nettie whipped out her cell phone. Okay, Louie, show me images of tattoos covering scars and stretch marks, Nettie asked her phone. A male voice spoke up with a French accent. Ah, yes, here are images of tattoos covering scars and stretch marks. The three women huddled together, looking at all the unique ways that women had altered their imperfections with ink. As they scrolled, they came across an image of a woman's belly. It was transformed into a colorful fireworks explosion. Right in the center of the fireworks display was the belly button. Well, double dang, would you look at that? Stella exclaimed. Wow, Annie said. It's really quite beautiful. And very clever, Nettie remarked. Annie grew thoughtful. You know how bad it had to hurt? That is some sensitive skin right there on your belly, she replied. Nettie agreed. Oh, yes, I am sure you are right, Annie, Nettie stated. All three women grimaced. They shrugged. All three straws went back to work. Nothing could really be so bad. After all, they would not trade their babies for anything. If stretch marks were the price that had to be paid, so be it. Plus, their special punch was kicking in nicely. Life was all good. Annie glanced back at Stella. She laughed out loud. Girl, next summer you need to get some sun on that belly of yours. It was blinding white. I had to put my sunglasses on. Annie playfully slid her glasses up and down on her nose. Stella gasped in outrage. Stella grinned while swatting at her sister. I will if you two join me, Stella challenged. Both women frowned. They grew thoughtful. Stella giggled. Nettie, your phone helper is male and his name is Louis? He sounds like a sexy Frenchman. They all laughed. Nettie shrugged. Oh, just hush up and drink your happy punch, Nettie smiled. So they did. Episode 21. Old Enemies, New Beginnings. Time marched on. The kids all settled into school just fine. Stella worried about Elijah, but he seemed happy. He literally took the 5th grade by storm. All the kids liked him. He was always helping one kid or the other with their homework. When Stella questioned the three boys, they all seemed incredibly happy with their new arrangement. So, how is school going, guys? Caleb spoke up first. It's good. We had a bit of trouble with Kara's son, Finn, Caleb admitted. Stella tensed up hearing this. What happened? Stella asked. David spoke up. Well, Finn started harassing Elijah, calling him shrimp and four eyes. I was about to pound. I mean, explain to him how that is not okay. David waved his hands calmly to get his point across. Stella eyed David severely. Caleb jumped back in. We didn't have to do anything, Ma. Elijah used big words that Finn did not get. Elijah practically recited the entire school policy handbook, like I mean the whole student handbook. David laughed. Finn couldn't get a word in. The more Elijah talked, the more confused Finn got. David rested his chin on his hand while continuing to grin from ear to ear. Finn got frustrated and stormed off. Elijah didn't get upset. It was epic, Caleb finished off. Stella looked at Elijah. Well, what do you think? Do you want me to talk to someone? I don't want him to keep bugging you or making you feel out of place. Elijah smiled slightly. I am not upset, Mom. Finn is just an angry kid, probably because his home life is not so great. Stella's eyebrows shot up at that remark. Say what? Elijah went on to say, Finn is just looking for someone to hurt because deep down he is hurting. He has no friends. He just needs a real friend. I'm going to do everything I can to be Finn's friend. Elijah hesitated. Maybe I will try talking to him. He is a smart kid, Mom. Can I invite him over to play video games tomorrow? Tomorrow is Saturday. Stella was stunned. She could not even talk. She just nodded yes. The boys all took off to play. Stella sat down. She hugged her coffee cup tightly with her hands, thinking about what had occurred. Stella realized that Elijah looked beyond Finn's pain and anger. He wanted to help and befriend Finn, and Stella felt shame. Yes, overwhelming shame. Not once had she ever tried to do what Elijah was doing. She never reached out to Kara. Honestly, she had never even given it a thought. Here Elijah was seeing so clearly what Finn needed, a friend, a real friend. An unexpected sob broke from Stella. It shocked her to her core. Stella thought back to the days when Kara and she had been the best of friends. They had spent every moment together, from preschool through fifth grade. Kara and Stella were never apart. They had sleepovers, spent entire summers together, swimming and camping. When Stella fell for Alden right around the sixth grade, Stella shifted away from Kara. She had not even considered how upset Kara must have been. She had been so uncaring, selfish, and blind. Stella got up impulsively she looked through their address book for Kara's phone number. Stella dialed the phone number, taking deep, calming breaths. Hello? Kara answered. Stella gulped. Hi, Kara, this is Stella. How are you today? Stella said nervously. Silence. Kara sounded confused. Stella? Stella Westman? Kara asked. Yes, it's me. Silence. Well, yeah, I'm doing good. What do you need? Kara sounded suspicious. Stella could just see her blue eyes squinting. Whenever Kara got nervous, she would twist her hair with her finger. She could practically see her doing it. I am calling because I really want to tell you how sorry I am. So sorry for how I treated you. We were best friends, Kara, and I blew it. Stella sobbed then, sucked in a breath, and continued. I fell for Alden. He was all I could see. I walked away from you. I never realized how that must have made you feel. If I did realize it, I was too self absorbed to care. At this point, Stella was crying out loud. I am deeply sorry for my selfishness, and if you can forgive me, I would love to start fresh. But if you cannot find it in your heart to work this out, I understand that too. Silence, an exceptionally long silence. Stella whispered, Are you there? Kara spoke. Why are you bringing this up now after all these years? Do you really think this can be fixed? Kara sounded unsure and a bit breathless. Stella smiled into the phone. Kara was not angry. She did not hang up, so there was hope. Stella asked, What are you doing tomorrow morning? Would you come over and have coffee with me so we can talk and catch up? I really would like you to come, please. Silence. When Kara spoke, she sounded a bit choked up. Okay, what time? Kara asked quietly. Stella mouthed, Yes. Tomorrow is Saturday. 9 a.m. sounds good. Bring the kids. They can hang out while we catch up. Kara laughed softly. Okay, I will be there. Bye. And Stella, thank you. Stella hung up the phone. She shook her head. Wasn't life interesting? Looking through the eyes of her child, seeing what he saw, Stella was excited that Kara was coming over. Stella threw back her head and laughed out loud. She shot her arms into the air with pure joy. No one was going to believe this. Stella and Kara had been enemies for years, but not anymore. Stella vowed that she was going to make this work. She poured another coffee. Episode 22. Coffee cake or milk cake? Stella did not tell anyone that Kara and her kids were coming over. She honestly was not sure how to tell Alden that Kara, her arch enemy, was coming over for coffee. Alden and the boys were off doing the chores. Francine and Elijah stayed behind because Stella wanted Kara's two kids to get to know them. Finn is the same age as the twins, and Kara's daughter is in the same class as Franny. Francine and Molly got along well with each other. The feuding had not touched their friendship, not ever. Stella should have paid attention to their good attitude as well. Stella let Elijah and Franny know that Kara and her children were coming over. She let them know that she wanted them to be nice and find fun activities for them to do. Elijah was excited. I am going to see if Finn wants to play my new video game. Franny spoke up. Yeah, I have been wanting Molly to come over forever. I never cared for Kara, but I have always liked Molly. Stella sat the kids down. I want to tell you two something. When Kara and I were young, we were best friends. We did everything together. Elijah's jaw dropped, and Francine looked just as shocked. Stella had never seen Elijah react like that. It was quite comical. Elijah, for the first time in his life, stuttered, but I thought you two detested each other, Elijah questioned. Franny nodded. Yeah, I thought Carr was mean. Francine looked bewildered. Stella explained the situation and how wrong it was of her to treat Carr that way. She let them know that she was determined to fix the situation. Franny stood up, leaned into her mom. You always tell us to play nice to always make friends, not enemies, Franny stated. Stella blushed, remembering her hypocritical words. How could she have been so blind? Franny went on to say, I'm so proud of you, Mom. You messed up big time, but you are trying to fix it. Good job. Stella hugged Franny tight. She felt tears start to form. She was always trying to teach her children to be decent human beings, but every day they taught her new things. They heard a car pull up. Franny jumped up. They're here! Franny danced around with excitement. Stella opened their door wide. Kara looked so nervous. Finn looked hesitant. Molly squealed and jumped up and down. Molly and Franny raced to one another, throwing their arms around each other. Stella swept her arm back, inviting them to enter. Franny was the first to speak. Molly, I am so happy you are here, Franny squealed. Molly and Franny hugged each other tight again. Then Franny turned to Kara. Miss Kara, can Molly come play with me in the toy room? We have a big, beautiful dollhouse with furniture and a bunny family and a kitty family, and they even have three baby mice. Molly's eyes got huge. She started jumping up and down. Can I, Mom, please? Kara smiled. Yes. Go have fun, girls, Kara said. Finn just eyed Elijah. He did not look too excited to be there. Elijah stepped forward. Hi, Finn. I have that new video game called Creative Island. It is an amazing game. We can be on the same team and build a fortress, harvest minerals, and so much more. Would you like to play? Finn smiled. For sure. I have been wanting to play that game. All animosity vanished. The boys ran off up the stairs, easily on their way to being best buds. Stella turned back to Kara. Kara was holding an extremely large covered dish in her hands. Stella gasped. I am so sorry making you stand there holding that. Please come on in, Stella said in a rush. Kara set the dish on the table. I do not know what that is, Kara, but it smells amazing, Stella exclaimed. Kara smiled shyly. It is a coffee cake. I can give you the recipe if you like, Kara offered. Stella shook her head. I would love that, thank you. A long, heavy silence filled the room. Neither of them knew what to say. Stella felt overwhelmed. I just want to say again how sorry I am, Stella whispered. Stella gulped. What I did to you was unforgivable. I was a stupid young girl with a crush. I still could have been your friend, and I did miss you. I was such an idiot. There is no excuse for my behavior. I cannot even explain my actions. By the time Stella was done, she was crying uncontrollably. Kara slumped. I was so hurt, but instead of talking to you about it, I talked bad to you and about you, only because I missed you so much. You were my one and only friend, Stella. My best friend. I was lost without you. I did not make friends easily. I was so alone. Kara continued. We should have just talked and tried to figure it all out, but I was so angry that Alden took you away from me that I tried to break you guys up. I thought that if I broke the two of you up, I would get my best friend back. As years went by, I found myself wallowing in resentment. I want you to know I am so deeply sorry for everything, too. Now Kara was crying uncontrollably. They reached for each other, hugging each other tightly, both talking incoherently. Nothing made much sense, but they could not seem to stop the flow of apologies. Alden and AJ stepped towards the screen door. Alden stopped AJ by slapping his open palm on AJ's chest. His eyes went wide when he saw the two women embracing. Both women were sobbing and talking at the same time. Alden whispered to AJ, back away slowly, son. One crying woman is rough. Two crying women? Not in this lifetime. AJ stood rooted to the spot. He just shook his head at his dad in disgust. Alden did not understand why AJ was not moving. What? AJ, we gotta get out of here. When women cry like that, I have no idea what to do. At some point, they turn on you, and somehow it is all my fault. What is my fault? I have no idea. Alden was still trying to back away, unnoticed by the women. AJ followed his dad, grabbing his forearm. AJ shook his head. He was almost eye to eye with his father. Dad, do you know anything about women at all? Alden looked offended. I know plenty. I know when to stay, and I know when to flee. Right about now, I feel like I should be anywhere but here. Alden glanced nervously towards the house. We have to go. They're going to see us, AJ. AJ shook his head no. We are going to go in there, hug the women, and tell them everything is going to be okay. Alden looked horrified. Why in the blue blazes would we be doing that? Alden practically choked on his words. Dad, while you're on the road, I would catch Mom crying. Alden still then frowned. His face changed quickly to sadness. AJ went on to say, I asked her what was wrong. She said she did not know. She said that sometimes women just cry, that all they need is a hug. I asked her again if she was sure, was there something she was not telling me? Alden was listening intently. He whispered, What did she say? She said that men are stupid. I assumed she was talking about you. She said they always ask what is wrong over and over. Mom said that sometimes there is nothing wrong. She does not even know what is wrong. Alden looked confused. AJ continued. Mom said that women have hormones. They cry, and all they really need is a strong pair of arms to hug them. Tell them they love them and that everything is going to be fine. She said that the final rule is to stop asking what is wrong. Alden looked shocked. So, what did you do? Alden asked. AJ looked his dad straight in the eye, his eyes twinkling. I hugged her. I made sure to not ask her what was wrong. I told her I loved her and that everything was going to be okay. Alden frowned. And that worked? Alden looked skeptical. AJ nodded. Yep. So every time I saw Ma crying, that is what I would do. It worked great. Come on, Dad. We have women to hug. You hug Mom, and I will hug Kara. Alden still looked skeptical. He started counting off on his fingers. So number one, you just hug them. Number two, you do not ask them what is wrong. Number three, you still do not know what is wrong, but you still tell them that everything is going to be all right. Finally, number four, you just tell them that you love them. AJ patted his dad on his arm. Now you got it, Dad. This better work, son, or you are in so much trouble. I cannot believe I am letting you talk me into this. The men went into the house. Alden tugged Stella away from Kara, folding her into his arms. Alden held her close while rubbing her back. Alden rested his head on Stella's and spoke softly. Hi, honey. I love you. Everything is going to be okay, Alden said softly. Stella snuggled into Alden, hugging him tightly. I love you too, Alden. Alden looked over at AJ with a big smile on his face. He gave AJ a thumbs up while he still held Stella close. AJ hugged Kara. Hey, Kara. I'm so glad you're here. Everything is going to be just fine. Both women hugged the guys tight and smiled. They wiped their tears and headed for the table. Stella looked at Kara. I do not know about you, but I think I needed that cry session. I feel so much better, Stella said with feeling. Kara nodded. I feel loads lighter. Cleansed. We need to have coffee and cake. I am starving. Cleansing the soul makes me hungry, Kara declared. Alden had amazement written all over his face. He turned to AJ and mouthed, Why? Why did that work? AJ snickered. He sat down, excited to share in the coffee cake. Franny walked up to the table with Molly. She had a disgusted look on her face. Ew, does that mean it has coffee in it? Because if it does, I do not think I would want that. Franny shook her head, looking at the cake like it was icky. Stella and Cara laughed. This here cake is coffee free. It is called coffee cake because you eat it with coffee. But you can drink milk, girls, Cara said. Molly is blue eyed with strawberry blonde hair like her mother. Molly recently lost her two top front teeth. When she smiled, it made everyone else smile. Then it would be milk cake for us, Molly said with a lisp. Franny nodded yes, she agreed. The boys all cracked up. I'll take some of that milk cake, Mom, AJ said. Me too, exclaimed David. Stella was impressed. I cannot believe the size of this cake, Stella exclaimed. Cara laughed out loud. I knew I was getting ready to feed an army. I had to make sure we would have enough. Alden shook his head and stated, Far as I'm concerned, there is never enough cake. Stella was shocked when she saw AJ and Ben pour themselves a coffee instead of milk. She did not say anything. She watched as they drank it down and munched on their cake. Stella would not let them drink it at bedtime, that was for sure. She figured they wanted to be treated like adults. The sweet treat was passed out. Everyone ate until they were ready to explode. Alden looked at Kara. You have to give that recipe to Stella. That coffee cake was the best I ever tasted. Kara smiled. Thank you. It's really very easy. I cheat and use that crescent stuff that comes in a roll. Stella gasped at Kara. No way! Stella looked stunned. Kara nodded. Easiest coffee cake you will ever make, Kara declared. There was a tap on the door. It opened. Nettie and Celie walked in, followed by Tom, Annie, and their two kids. Nettie and Annie looked stunned to see Stella and Kara in the same room. Stella sent the kids off to play. They cleaned up their mess and set down cups of coffee for Nettie and Annie. The guys ate their cake and got a cup of coffee and wandered off. Celie kept gawking at the ladies on his way out of the room. What in thunder boomers is going on around here? Celie demanded. Alden said, No clue, Dad. Keep walking. Tom laughed. Who cares? We got cake, Tom crowed. Alden leaned in and whispered as they walked. Them women were crying and sobbing. You could not understand a word they were saying. Do you know what they said? They said that after all that sobbing and carrying on that they felt better and cleansed. Seeley shook his head. He looked curiously at Alden and Tom. That is the darndest thing I ever heard, Seeley groused. Alden smirked. You guys ever cry that hard or sob and carry on like that? Did it make you feel better or cleansed? Seeley and Tom both looked horrified at even the thought. They both looked at Alden like he was nuts. Seeley spoke up. Tarnation, son. That is the craziest notion I ever heard, crying making you feel good. Your ma watches those shows that make her cry like a newborn. Then she sighs loud and wipes her eyes. Your ma says that after watching those heartfelt, girly, crying movies that she feels loads better. Tom looked shocked. Tom looks shook up. When Annie cries like that, I do not know what to do. I ask her what is wrong, and she bites my head off. Tom looked completely confused. Alden put his arm around each of the men. trying to look as wise as an old owl. Let me enlighten you. There are four parts to this magic trick. Number one, you hug 'em. Seeley scowled, then leaned back to get a good look at his son's face. You are kidding. I have to hug your mother? Seeley looked mystified. Yes, Dad, pay attention. This is a four-step wonder. Tom hung on every word. Alden continued to explain his pearls of wisdom as they wandered farther away from the women. Back at the dining room table, Nettie spoke first because Annie still had a stunned look on her face. She kept looking at Stella, back to Kara, back to Stella, etc. Hi, Kara. It is so nice to see you. Honestly, I did not see this coming at all. I have to say, I am thrilled. Kara smiled. Stella called me. We had a long talk. We are so happy and excited to be back in each other's lives. Stella nodded. I was a complete idiot. I am so happy to have you back, Kara. I cannot believe you forgave me. Stella shook her head, feeling bad all over again. Kara spoke up. Now, don't you start that again, Stella. We are good. In fact, I would like to officially invite all of you over to my house a week from tomorrow for dinner. Kara looked at Nettie and Annie. If you all can make it, I would be honored if you could come as well. Nellie looked so pleased. I know Celia and I can come. We have no plans. Annie finally seemed to get over her shock. We would love to be there, Annie squealed. Kara and her kids stayed for a couple of hours. Caleb and David even warmed up to Finn, and Finn looked like he was having a great time. Elijah was right. Finn just needed friends. Stella suspected that at school on Monday, Caleb, David, Elijah, and Finn would be hanging out together. She felt good about that. Eventually, everyone left, with all the Westmans standing and waving goodbye. Alden sat down. Stella followed. The children all ran off to do whatever. Alden looked over at Stella. What in the world just happened here? Alden looked completely floored by the day's events. Stella giggled and filled Alden in about the altercation at school with Finn and Elijah. She told him about Elijah's big plan to befriend Finn. Stella told Alden how ashamed she was of herself and how she decided to call Kara. Alden shook his head. I never thought I would see Kara standing in our dining room with the two of you hugging. Blows my mind. Alden put his hands to his head, imitated the sound of a bomb going off while messing up his hair. His hair stood on end, sticking out all over the place. Stella laughed. It had been an emotional day, but an extremely rewarding one. Kara invited them all over for dinner, and Stella had to admit she was looking forward to it. All right. Wow. We did kind of a long reading today. Our next episode will be episode 23, and this they're going to be at Kara's house, and they're going to find out some interesting facts about the house that Kara and Nick live in. Nick is Alden's cousin, so it is Ceely's only brother's child, Nick. So Nick and Kara got married, and they have two children, and they have Molly and Finn. So the next episode will be episode 23. Follow along with me tomorrow. I'll be back. Have a great day. Bye.